Hi, Superintendent Reykdal. Good to have you with us again. This is something we chatted briefly about, and something that I think maybe other folks also have wondered. But over the past couple years, there's been studies in the news, social commentary, and community members I have met that raise the question of male college enrollment, and it's followed the overall drop in college enrollment since the Great Recession. And, Brookings, CNN, lots of reports say the gap between men and women has widened significantly since then. In fall of 2020, just 41% of students enrolled in post-secondary were men. For degree completion, and I quote, about 74 men received the bachelor degrees for every 100 women, and continues to say, although women are more likely to graduate college at each level, men are still overrepresented with many fields with high earning potential, such as engineering or computer science, end quote. There's a lot of folks, worried about a lot of these things, socially and demographically and so on and so forth. And would just love to hear your perspective on this trend, as well as the education and social implications on these sort of what we're seeing, these demographic shifts in higher ed.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. We talked a little bit about this before, I think. I was just on a panel on civics, and the reason I make that nexus is I'm trying to help people understand that this very complex culture war we're in has all kinds of roots that tap deep into K-12. And one of those roots that's tapping pretty deep these days is this divide between college educated and non-college educated. And that's a terribly horrific binary label that's in the data sets. But it's starting to play out in our national dialogue and our culture, and quite frankly, our tensions out there. You're seeing increasing voting patterns of college educated go one way and non-college educated the other. I think what we're going to have to spend some time talking about, and maybe you've already picked up my obsession with why I don't like calling things college or not. Every student needs a post-secondary opportunity. A high school diploma is rarely going to get it done, but I don't care what you say. And I'm talking to each of you as individuals and all of us collectively. There is a culture out there that a traditional university system means you've got success. And if you went to a trade school, it's because you settled on it. That isn't how every individual feels, but that's the collective sense that there are alternative routes for things when the primary route is college. And yet the economy is sitting there saying we don't have enough roofers, plumbers, sheet metal workers, long haul truck drivers, technicians, all of it. And a lot of these pay incredibly well. So young people are making really rational decisions to go do those things. But then we look at our traditional higher ed enrollments and we say, my God, 60% of these are female and only 40% are male. Where are the males? And they're saying, we're doing what we did for 100 years, which is going to work. It's just that we used to drop out after 8th grade and go to work, and no one thought anything about it. And now we complete high school and go to work, and everyone wants to know why we aren't in traditional universities. And flip that around, and there are still enormous barriers for young women to think about careers in the trades. So they don't feel like they get access to it as equitably either. So what is their pathway to a post-secondary? It's a more traditional higher education for your liberal arts approach. So we are crystallizing historic patterns at faster rates because we keep using a narrative that one is the right way to go and the other one is an alternative. And I would rather say, what percentage of students are getting college level access, including trades, because those are at the college level, while they're in high school, and how many of them are getting a post-high school credential? When you look at that, you go, oh, this looks a whole lot more like 50-50. But we're going to continue to use these narrow definitions, and I think that's problematic. And I think it's causing this rift, and I think it's an othering psychology, and you've got a growing number of young men who say, I'm being treated as somebody who failed because I didn't go to a university right out of high school. I chose something else, including military service, by the way, which is still totally disproportionate by gender. But they count as a non-college grad and a non-college participant, even though they get some of the best training in the world when they're in the military.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kevin. Great question.